Hello.
G'day, Dino. How you going, mate? It's Jai with Crank and that metal station. Pleased to meet you.
How's it going? Is this the first time we're talking?
Yeah, this is the first time we're talking, man.
I thought we were scheduled for a while ago. Maybe something didn't happen, right?
Yeah, I think so. I was going to have a chat with you a little bit ago, but my niece was ill with was ill with a terminal brain tumor, so it kind of I had a few things
Oh,
put
yeah.
back.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, she just passed a couple of days
Sorry to hear
ago.
about that.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, bro. But you got to keep rolling on, man, with
That
life and things like that as well, as hard as
that
it is.
that that puts things in perspective. Like my issues are nothing compared to that.
Yeah, it's been a really tough time, but my niece absolutely loved heavy metal and bands like Fear Factory, and she got me into Bring Me the Horizon. Actually, Dean, I was never a huge fan, but I was running her into Radiation every day, and she made me like she just loved Bring Me the Horizon, so I had to go get all their albums and crank them all the way into the hospital and everything as well, and on the way back as well. So she gives me a lot of strength every day, mate. That's for sure, and will give me a lot of strength going forward.
So was that your mother or your sister
That was my niece, my sister's little girl. She was
or
5.
your niece? And how old is she?
She was 5. She just turned 5 on the 12th of May. She made it to her 5th birthday, man. It was pretty, yeah, tough little girl, man.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. We'll dive in.
Really, really sorry to hear that.
No, that's fine, Dino. This is my first interview back, dude. So thanks for giving me a minute to talk about her and get my head around that. I really do appreciate it. This album, Aggression Continuum, comes out 18th of June through Nuclear Blast, man. It's an absolute ripper of an album. I've got to have a listen to it. The Fuel Injected Suicide Machine album came out a couple of days ago. Can you tell me about that track first, mate?
That track is our love for movies, and one of them being one of our favorites, which is Mad Max, the original, just before the Road Warrior. And we, wanted to do a song based off one of the characters called the Knight Rider. Um, and we just felt that the song was very fitting. The music was very fitting because it was so intense and sounded like an engine. And so we just turned it into the Knight Rider. I'm the fuel injected suicide machine.
Yeah, man, it's a ripping track. I had that one hammering as well as all the tracks last night. I listened to this album a whole heap of times, and that's the thing I love about Fear Factory albums. You just make whole albums and you just put a story into the album as well, and to get the most out of Fear Factory, you got to listen to these whole albums, and it's great for me because it seems a lot of bands are just making albums full of singles now and not forgetting the art of making a whole album which tells a story.
Yeah, well, we come from, back in the era where people were making albums. So we still love to, create a story within the whole album. That way people can get into it more than just listening to some music, right?
Yeah.
But, that's just where music has changed to singles. People's attention spans have changed. People don't have time to listen to a whole record. Maybe now because of COVID, because people were stuck at home. But before that, people weren't just, people's attention spans have changed. It's gotten shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah,
Still there?
it definitely has gotten shorter, hasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about the themes? Was it Mad Max that kind of influenced this and the Knight Rider character and everything that influenced the songwriting process and everything on this album?
Well, no, that's just one song. The whole song has so many different movie themes. Part of it are just stuff that had influenced us from stuff that we've been watching since we were kids. One of them being the Terminator trilogy, or not trilogy, but 5 movies now, 4 or 5 movies. But yeah, definitely Terminator. One of the ones was Terminator Salvation, which is the total intro to the whole record. The intro to the song Recode, and it's where John Connor is talking to the Resistance. So we kind of did our own take on that for the intro, and then it goes over into, towards the end of the movie, it goes into Fear is the Mind Killer, the end of the record, where I put the Fear is the Mind Killer speech at the end, and then there's a song called Collapse, which is pretty much in the middle of the record, and that's a little bit of, the intro is about the movie First Blood, which is the first Rambo movie. And It has the intro of the police telling everybody to go inside because some shit's going to go down.
Yeah. Can you tell me that was really cool, man. Can you tell me a little bit about when you started making the album and sitting down making the riffs and playing guitar? When did you first get started on it all?
I'm going to say probably late 2016, early 2017. We finished the record in 2017, so we turned it in at that time. But due to certain legalities preventing us from moving forward with the name Fear Factory, the record got shelved for a few years up until July 2020, when I was able to regain the rights back to the trademark name Fear Factory, where I was able to go into the studio and make some improvements. So you never are done with the record until it's actually on CD. It's actually being manufactured. Then you could say you're done with the record and you can put it out.
Yeah, I'm loving the resurgence of vinyl as well, and I've grabbed a couple of your old albums on vinyl as well, and I'm looking forward to getting this Aggression Continuum on vinyl. I'm loving how vinyl has made a real resurgence in the metal scene and everything as well. It's kind of always been there, but it's really coming back again the last couple of years, that pure medium of listening to an album. And as I was saying before, you listen to a whole album, you get a real story out of it. And with vinyl, you do that. It kind of connects you to the music. You're listening to the one side, you sit there, you flip it over. It's the closest thing I get to a religious experience as well, listening to heavy metal, putting my headphones on and listening to it through some vinyl. It just creates this sound that, people have forgotten but have come back.
Yeah, vinyl has been making a comeback for the last 10 years or so, maybe even longer. But it's really picked up a lot of steam. There's a long wait now to get vinyl made because there's not a lot of vinyl manufacturing companies. Because remember, way back, the vinyl manufacturing companies became obsolete.
Yeah.
People were getting rid of the machines, destroying them, just getting rid of the factories, and blah, blah, blah. There was only a handful left. And so that's why there's such a long wait, because everybody wants to reproduce vinyl. All the record companies want to reissue all their back catalog on vinyl and try to get that done. So because of that, it caused a clog in the system. In other words, it's oversaturated. Too many people are trying to make these records at the same time. So that's why there's such a long delay. Plus COVID. Some of these manufacturing companies couldn't go back to work. So, that put a lot of delays too. So there's about a 6-month delay before you can get a vinyl.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And if you ordered a vinyl online, go ahead.
I was going to, you finished, Dino?
I was going to say that, if you wanted to make an order on a vinyl, like a pre-order, it would take about 6 months before you get it.
Yeah, it's what definitely pays to chuck in a pre-order for albums that you're looking forward to getting hold of too early as well, so the bands know kind of how much they got to press and everything as well, usually doing a limited run. Got Reese Fulber back for a couple of tracks on this. I was pretty excited as well because I've been a fan of Fear Factory since right back in the start, in the early days, and it was really cool to see him come back and do it, program a couple of tracks as well. Can you tell me which tracks that he's on, because I couldn't find that out, and tell me about the tracks he done as well with this.
I know it doesn't really list each guy per track because we have at least 5 different people who play keyboards.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard. It's hard for me to remember each guy.
Because it's so long ago.
But Reese Fulber, Yeah. Reese Fulber, I have to actually go back to my notes here, but Reese Fulber worked on Disruptor, and he worked on
Disruptor was the first single too. That was ripping single. I was pretty impressed when that one dropped as well.
Yeah. And another guy named Max Caron worked on that song too, Disruptor. And the second one, I don't remember. I'm going to go back to my notes. Oh, Purity.
Choice. That's cool. That was
called Purity.
It would have been good to have him back as well, do a couple of tracks with you as well. That would have been fun to get him on board too.
Yeah, he didn't really have a lot of time. He was working on one of his own records.
Yep.
Yeah, but I was able to reach out to him and get him to at least do a couple of songs on the record. But, like I said, we have like 5 different guys.
Yeah, I
know. We have our engineer, producer, Damien Reynaud. Damien Reynaud did some of the tracks. Max Caron, Giuseppe Bassi out of Italy, Igor, yep. So you're like, a few different guys. And I think that's one of the cool things about this record that made it a little bit more diverse. We had different people working on it.
Yeah, and it was you had Andy Sneap as well, who also mixed the album, did he?
Yeah, we got Andy Sneap back to mix the album. He had mixed Genexus, our record before this one, which came out in 2015. Yeah, so we really liked his mixes and what he did and how he approached the tones and everything of what he applied, all the effects and stuff like that. So we wanted to get him back for this record, and I believe that he did an amazing job again, and I can't wait to work with him again in the future.
Yeah. What was the recording and production process like? I know it was a little bit ago, but what was that whole process like, laying that down? And tell us a little bit about where you recorded.
Well, when we worked on the first incarnation of this record, it was pretty smooth. Yep. It wasn't until later on that, this record almost had like 2 productions on it.
Yep,
pretty much what it is. But there was such a long gap in between, like 3-year gap, that we didn't have any idea of this, or we didn't have any clue if this record was still going to be able to be called Fear Factory. So that was probably the hardest thing.
And that would have created a bit of stress as well, too.
Production wasn't that.
The people don't realise. You see all this crap people throw around. It kind of does my head in. I call it gutter media. I see all this shit just floating around. It's like people do whatever they do. Why make a big fucking deal about it, if you know what I mean? People have lives. They do what they fucking do. Why make a big deal about it? And for me, I get really annoyed being on this side of the media as well. Heavy metal, I love the scene, and I hate the seeing other media kind of bring it down a bit with that the gutter meter and just... you only ever see problems, stories about problems and issues and going on. It's not about, the positive side of heavy metal and,
Yeah. Well, you have to have thick skin in order to handle the media because, you got to realize that you're a known person. So people want to know everything about you. They want to break it down. They want their opinions and blah, blah, blah. The media like to twist things around and just, make headlines that people are going to be attracted to, and so on and so on. It's just a necessary evil, unfortunately. But it takes a lot of self-drive and dedication and discipline. And most musicians know that there's plenty of sacrifices we go through for our craft. Some worse than others, And my situation is much worse. It's different and very unique. I can't think of any band or band members that's gone through what I have,
Yeah.
But I feel lucky to do what I get to do and choose this as my life.
That's it, eh? I think you have a lot of drive, man. I love the work you lay out, Dino. You're a legend. In my opinion, you deserve that respect as well from people on my side of the scene as well, so it does kind of shit me. And that's all I wanted to chuck in on that behalf, man. Can I ask you, which you go.
Can I add to what I was talking about?
Yeah, go for it, Dino.
Burton leaving the band can be devastating for the legacy of this band, but I'm not going to let that happen. Everyone is doubting me, Some people are foaming at the mouth for me to fail. Most of the media is doubting me, and there's been plenty of fans that have been doubting me as well. And I love that everyone feels that way because the comeback is going to be greater.
Yeah, definitely, and I believe you deserve the respect you put into the scene, mate, and it just shits me when I see it. Can I ask about a track, man? If you had to pick a favourite track off the album, which one would it be and why? And I know it's like picking a favourite child off an album, and I dread to ask, but I'm always interested into like the artist opinion on which track they like the most and which one they think stands out the most on the album.
I think for me, it differs every day.
Yep.
But today, I'm going to say my favorite track is Aggression Continuum, the title track. I love the intro. It's part of the concept where AI automatons are thinking they are human. And in the beginning of the beginning of the song, it's a conversation between man and this automaton. And the automaton thinks it's human, and the man is trying to tell him you're not human, right? And then it just goes into the concept of the song, but the riffs and the beat and the energy of that song is probably my favorite right now.
Yeah, it's killer, man. It's done really well. I want to ask you now too, what guitars and what setup? I know I fucking didn't realize it was back in 2017 when I was thinking this question. But do you remember what guitars and setup you were using for this album?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I know.
In 2017, I used an Ibanez with my Retribution pickup and a Kemper profile and amplifier of a tone that I created. So that's the first one. But when we went back in 2020, when I got the names back and I was able to add some production to the album, we reamped the guitar. I'm sorry, I'm burping right now. Sorry about that. But we reamped the guitar tone with my Marshall JCM 800 that was modified by Mike Fortin using my Pro Tone overdrive pedal. So we reamped it. There was a couple of fixes that I needed to make, and I used my Ormsby guitar with my Machete pickups.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a couple of things I needed to change around riff-wise, and I used that. So it's mainly my Ibanez 7-string signature guitar with my Retribution signature pickups from Seymour Duncan. And then some of the repairs were done with my Ormsby guitar with my signature pickup called the Machete from Seymour Duncan. So, yeah, it's a few different things.
Yeah, nice setup. I got to ask a quick couple of questions from some listeners and some readers as well. They've sent me. Joey Diabolic wanted to know, what do you think the future of the metal scene is going to look like, mate? Do you think it's stupid?
Well, right now, what I've noticed that a lot of recently a lot of diverse type of metal have been coming out lately. Bands like Ginger and Spirit Box, and a few other bands. But I just think that I think the metal scene is just going to progress, into people combining different genres, everything from jazz to reggae to you name it, and they're going to be putting all that, and they're going to be blending all that, and it's going to come out sick.
Yeah, it's looking good, the state of the metal scene, and some of the bands coming through is just fucking unreal. I'm really enjoying it. It does my head in when I see people go, rock and metal's dead, mate. It's just you're not looking hard enough. That's all it is.
Well, I know people have said that because of Gene Simmons, that Gene Simmons' rock and metal is dead. And what he means by that, he doesn't necessarily mean that the genre is dead. He just said this is not as successful as it was to what it was back in the 80s and the 90s.
Yep.
Like, every musical genre has a shift, right? Sometimes, like, for instance, right now, hip-hop is really dominating. Hip-hop and, like, commercial rock are really dominating the airwaves, right? They're dominating record sales. But right now, I think it's kind of shifting a little bit where metal is coming back. I mean, look at Gojira, who sold close to 30,000 records the first week. That's a lot of records nowadays. They beat out the commercial hip hop guy named DJ Khaled. That's a big statement. That's telling you that rock and metal is coming out. But at the same time, you have people kind of keeping it down. Look at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They snubbed Judas Priest and Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
So.
But I think that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You go.
Go ahead.
I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has kind of lost a lot of respect over the years, though, too, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's definitely losing a lot of respect now because they snubbed Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and they chose Jay-Z and some other people above them when they should have gave respect and gave it to Iron Maiden and Judas Priest first because they're very influential back then, and they're very influential still now to this day.
Yeah.
So I understand the guy was trying to say the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is wide in its genre, and I get it, but you got to show respect where respect's due. And Iron Maiden had paved the way, and they're playing massive places, massive stadiums without radio airplay. You got to show some massive respect for that. That these guys were that successful, because they were that successful without the commercial success. Meaning they're not like on radio stations, they're not on TV, stuff like that, So it was a wrong move for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to stop those guys.
It definitely was, and that looks like our time is just about up, Dino. I'm going to let you get about the rest of your interviews, man. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking.
Well, we have time for one more question.
Okay, awesome. I do have another question here. I have one from Samuel Wetz, one of our DJs here on thatmetalstation.com out of the US. He wanted to know, how did you get on that Eye for an Eye track on that first Soulfly album?
Well, I'm really good friends with Ross Robinson and really good friends with Max Cavalera, and
nice.
They invited me to come down to the studio when they were recording. I went down there and I nailed it.
Yeah, man, I was keen to know that once he asked me as well, because that album was a ripping album, and that track especially is one that he kind of plays at the end of every show. I think pretty well.
One more question. We can keep going until I tell you to stop. We got about 6 minutes, so go for it.
Okay, cool, man. Yeah, what's next, man? What's the deal? Have you got plans? I know it's a fair bit off the track at the moment, but have you got plans to eventually get this going live as well? Come and grab another singer and go live, because I think it'd go cool. I think the diehard fans would just love this, man.
Nah, man. After this record, I quit and it's over.
Yeah, okay. Cool, you're gonna start something.
I'm joking.
No, I'm like, fuck, man. Shit, dude. I don't want him. I'm like, it's Dino. Let him say what he wants, bro.
I'm only kidding. I'm not really joking. No, we're gonna move forward. Definitely.
Good.
We have a worldwide singer search, and we are going to be choosing somebody soon, and we will be announcing, later on this year.
Oh, that's really good to hear.
Forward. We got touring plans for next year, as much as the world allows us to. So I know that certain countries are still going through their COVID-19 pandemic. So we're going to tour as many countries as we possibly could.
Oh, that's really good to hear, man, because I think fuck the gutter journalism and fuck all the haters, man. I love Fear Factory. And, each to their own, and we all kind of...
Hey, man, you know what? All those people who doubt me is what drives me and challenges me to do even better and prove them all wrong and come out with fucking something sick. And I can't wait.
I can't wait either. I'm really, really looking forward to it because, you've done your time and, you've laid the groundwork and absolute legends in the scene that have, a lot of people look up to you as a guitarist and what you've achieved. And, I am really looking forward to what happens, and regardless of what happens, you just got to support the scene and not bring it down.
Yep. Can't wait.
That's it. Any last words?
Thank you.
Shout outs or thank yous you'd like to add in there, Dino?
Yes.
Anything may have forgotten as well?
Yes. Yes. I want to say thank you to all the fans that contributed to the GoFundMe campaign and making it a success and helping us get this record out to you. If you want to do any pre-orders or if you want to find out anything about Fear Factory or just, go there and see all the pictures and photos and bios and all that stuff, go to fearfactory.com for all the vinyl, cassette, CDs, and merchandise. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much, Dino, for having a chat with me, mate. I look forward to it. Everyone grab Aggression Continuum on 18th of June through a nuclear blast. Put it in your stereo. Turn it up really loud. And when you get over to the land down under, Dino, I'll be front row centre, mate, supporting you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, brother.
Appreciate it.
Have a
Bye.
great night. Cheers, mate.